The principle that emerged through France is a really important one. It's foundational. It's this idea of human-to-human work. Humans are the only species that works. And that may or may not sound obvious, but we're the only species that understood, that discovered that we could specialize, that we could trade, that we could find a way to exchange value in our lives in order to create a better tomorrow than today. That is so uniquely human. And as a result, that's such a huge part of what we need out of our work. Human to human connection. And that's what emerged foremost through my time in France.
So my first conversation tonight about satisfying work, and it's fascinating. Maybe more striking for me was how much it mattered. As soon as we started to talk about his work, and you could see both him and his wife, you could see them looking back through the history of their family, their heritage, and just thinking about what work had meant to them, what work had been for their family, what work had led to in terms of happiness, economics, all sorts of things. I mean, the full picture of what work does in people's lives started to come through these stories, and it started to become, really eye-opening in a way that's bigger than the answer.
Work is connected to so many of those big things in life. Freedom, finances, fulfillment, happiness, security, family. And when that work-life relationship is damaged, when it's not offering the full spectrum of what it should, things begin to suffer. Welcome to episode 1 of Working Around the World. My name is Tyler Waye, and I'm in Paris, and I'm so excited for the launch of this project. Because for a living, I teach leadership strategy and change to executives, which means for a living, I need to be fascinated with the human relationship with work. I need to be fascinated and better understand what drives satisfaction, what drives people's engagement, how do they fall in love with their work? Because without that ingredient, without that underlying piece, almost nothing else matters. You can take the strategy and just about throw it out the window. Which is why I've set out on a 1-year journey across the world to research deeply satisfying work. What are the principles? How do we unlock satisfaction for ourselves and for our organizations? It's fascinating to venture out into the world with those questions. It will open your eyes. And like I said, we start our journey with episode 1 in France, with a dive into the world of dairy farmers and cheesemakers.
I've been thinking back on my time in France, spending that much time with farmers. It was probably the first opportunity in my life that I spent that much time with people who produce food. And there's been a couple things that have really stood out for me in retrospect. Probably the biggest lesson was this idea that kept coming up around the need for those farmers to do useful work. And of course, on the surface, that makes sense. They're producing food. That's something that's very important for people. We can understand why that's a necessity for life. But it actually went one step deeper than that. It wasn't just about, is this useful for people, and kind of this grand notion that eventually the thing they produce is going to go into somebody's mouth and be calories for them to eat. It was more important than that, in the sense that they wanted to see how their product went through the chains, that they actually understood when it connected to somebody, how it connected to somebody, how somebody appreciated that thing that they created. Because farming, what was really clear was that farming is not without its challenges. So in certain ways, there's this romantic quality of being a farmer in France. It was this beautiful setting and really was out of a storybook. But it's hard work. It's really hard work. And one of the ways they were using motivation to overcome that hard work was by working to see the process through. So if they were producing the milk, they wanted to get into a collective that started to culture that milk, started to create cheese with that milk, started to sell that cheese, started to see the people who bought that cheese appreciate it, so they could make that connection with people. And it reminds me of one of the core principles of work, is that people are wired, it's in our DNA to help each other. Human to human, that is work at its core. And when we start to separate the human impact, our satisfaction with work drops. It drops. People want to be connected to somebody else. They want to see the smile, they want to see their eyes, they want to see them appreciate the hard work they put into something. That was the greatest reminder in France. Useful work.
So it's really to take the milk, which ultimately could be just sold directly to any cheese place.
Yeah.
But to actually take that milk and transform it,
build it through the
process. Through the process, turn it into cheese, and then actually sell that to consumers.
Yeah. Like right from the start to the finish.
To the finish, yeah.
When work started, it wasn't about making money. It wasn't about jobs or titles or promotions. It was about using your skills to help another person and to help your own life. Maybe it was fishing and trading the extra fish you caught, but it was always about making an exchange that improved your life and the life of someone else. And you knew who that someone else was. You could see them smile. You had a direct connection between your work, their benefit, and your life. This drive to work. The power of work was discovered and harnessed by humans. We did it to improve our lives and the life of someone else. And when we can see the direct way we are being uniquely useful to someone else, our ancient DNA smiles. And I think it's food for thought. If you want to make your work more satisfying again, put people in the center of it. Profit comes after. Metrics are only the result, not the focus. Work serves life, yours and someone else's. Who can you make smile because of your specialized ability? Answer that first. The next lesson will follow.